Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Imagine taking a day off from work in a future without capitalism. It might not feel as badly needed as it does now. You enjoy your work. It's interesting to you, and you're well trained for it. You work as much as you're able and no more than needed. And you would control your own labor and see it going to good use. It's not just a job to pay the bills. Speaking of bills, you don't really have them anymore. You have no debt. You don't need health insurance. You don't pay a mortgage or have a landlord because comfortable housing is a human right. Your retirement is publicly funded. Food, education, energy, medicine, and transportation aren't for-profit businesses. They are common goods and utilities. Okay, enough about bills. What do you do on your day off? Maybe in the morning, you walk your kids to school, run errands, or go to a doctor's appointment. In the afternoon, you might play a sport, practice a new skill, read, or plan a trip. In the evening, you could meet up with friends or family and eat together, maybe go to the movies or down to the park. These are all familiar everyday activities. A socialist day, a day off, would be like any good day now. But what if you were free to spend your time how you like, without worry about cost or dreading going back to work? What if you didn't have to think about paying rent or loans at the end of the month, or saving for college, or affording groceries? What would that be like? It's been said that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. But just because it isn't easy to imagine now doesn't mean we shouldn't try to make it happen. Workers deserve more. Does all this sound good to you? Or does it scare you? For many, this sounds great. I mean, who doesn't want to go to work whenever they feel like it? Do whatever job that they want to do and not have any bills or debt or mortgage or rent. Not have to pay into your retirement fund or for food or education, energy, medicine, or transportation. So why would it be a bad thing for us to go away from capitalism and to a system like this? How did we get to a place where we have to work a job just to pay for everything? Well, what I just read to you is straight from a report put out by the Democratic Socialists of America. And it's entitled Our Program. And in effect, it's a list of things that if you are a Democratic Socialist, you must stand and fight for. So how do they say that we got to this terrible place of having to go to work and pay bills? Well, let's see what they say. I went straight to their website. This is exactly what our program, as they call it, says. And under our perspective, it says the world is in chaos. But for the bosses, it's all going according to plan. We can see their plan in the countless heartbreaking images coming out of war zones like Beirut and Gaza and Tehran. So let me stop. I'm going to go through this with you. I find it interesting that they begin with, well, they go right to a huge conspiracy theory. According to them, There is a worldwide plan. This a worldwide plan set into place by bosses. And we can see this is the case if you see any kind of war, because there would not be any war if there were not any big bosses plan, right? Well, it goes on. It says, we can hear it in the rumble of bulldozers making way to build detention camps and data centers. I find this one really interesting as well. Not because of the detention camp reference. We already know that leftists don't like America to have borders and things. But the one that is interesting to me is the data centers. Leftists are on a mission to make America lose the AI race. If we were to win the AI race, then our form of government and influence around the world would be further propelled, of course. And they say we can feel it in the air as the summer heat becomes unbearable, and in the pits of our stomachs when faced with the price of gas and rent. We're promised magical technology with AI, but in reality, the bosses lay us off and track our every move. The billionaire class is dividing workers against each other, and it's making us desperate and miserable. It is so interesting that the two things they pick here to show how bad it is, the price of gas and rent. Yeah, those are the two things. Both of these things are way more expensive because of government involvement and taxes and regulations, not capitalism. If left to just simply the free market system, these would be dramatically cheaper. But I go on. The political and economic system under which we live is built on private ownership and profit at all costs. As capitalism fails to solve problems of its own making, it turns to right-wing authoritarianism. Big businesses make deals with the government to line their pockets, and politicians stoke hatred between working people. Instead of offering real solutions to unemployment and the cost of living, they attack immigrants and communities of color and trans people. Wow. Wow. This right here, this is a straw man if I've ever seen one. I mean, they say capitalism fails to solve problems of its own making. What problems is capitalism supposed to solve? And how is it capitalism's own making of some non-existent problem or something? I mean, how are capitalism attacking immigrants and people of color and trans people? I would like to know. I'd like to see it. Give me one example. Yeah, this is what you call a straw man. Well, rather than fixing our broken healthcare system, they say, they push snake oil and circulate conspiracy theories. Yeah, this is rich coming from a political organization that says that we are all a part of a huge big boss's plan, right? And wasn't it the leftists that wanted to force the COVID vaccine, that of course wasn't a vaccine, on everyone? But it's the capitalists that sell snake oil. Okay. They go on. The Republicans are in on it. The Democratic Party is asleep at the wheel. And both are funded by the same criminal class of billionaires and war profiteers. All right, so you see the insinuation here, don't you? That all billionaires are criminals, right? They will tell you that no one should have that much money. I mean, they literally say that. AOC said that not too long ago, that it's impossible to make that much money. You know, they tell you that you should not have that much money, and if you do, then it's because you stole it. Now, they turn to who is your savior here? Yes, you guessed it. It's them. They're your savior out of all of this. They say democratic socialists know that no one has to live like this. If we lived in a classless society and governed ourselves, we could freely build a world without war or poverty. Okay, let's stop here. How is America a society of classes? I mean, seriously, do we have a caste system like India? Where you are born into a class and you can never change it? How do we not have the freedom to change our lot in life? It's the free market system, capitalism, that has given us that freedom in this country to do so. But they go on and they say we could build a world where no one suffers for their race, gender, or religion, and everyone is free, equal, and cared for. How do people suffer? That's my question. Why? How do people suffer in this country over race or gender or religion? I mean, simply name one thing, just one, that's all I'm asking, that you can't do if you are a certain race, gender, or religion. They say building this world is the guiding star of our movement. No, it's not, or you would be a capitalist. But anyway, when we labor for our common good instead of private profit, we can all have a secure and dignified life and use our time and talents how we wish. Wait. There are people that love to clean out porta potties? Really? If you can just pick, what you want to do without money being any consideration, then who's going to muck stalls? They say to achieve this future, our class must organize. The Democratic Socialists of America is building a party whose goal is a democratic society of the working class. Our enemies are not just individual bosses, but the entire global system of capital. Yeah, remember that one. An entire global system of capital. See, your boss is keeping you from all this global capital. But we don't like capital. We are not capitalists. Capitalists are bad. But we need all this global capital. We are not sure where all this global capital is stored. But with your help and us organizing together, we will find all this hidden global capital. But just remember, we are not capitalists. You see, it doesn't make any sense, does it? It just doesn't make any sense. But like I say, they say our enemies are not just individual bosses, but the entire global system of capital. Not just this or that cop, judge, or president, but the entire anti-democratic structure of our society. Well, unless his name is Donald Trump, of course. They hate him. Anyway. We are workers fighting to transform society, to win the battle for democracy, draft a new constitution, and create a democratic socialist republic. I didn't get the memo that there was a battle for democracy. And remind me again, what is wrong with our current constitution? They say DSA, that's the Democratic Socialists of America, has written this program for ending capitalist oligarchy and creating a real democracy. Some of these demands may be worn under our current system, but we know complete victory will require building a new society from the ground up. We push these demands to their furthest extent today, so we can fight for their fullest realization in a socialist future. Join us. All right. So So ignoring the fact, okay, let's just ignore the fact that we are not a democracy, okay? Because, true democracies just turn into mob rule. Just ask the Greeks. We see here that what the Democratic Socialists of America really want is a complete redo of our economic and political systems in this country. So, what does this mean? What does this utopia of theirs look like? They can't point to anything that has ever worked in the entirety of human history. So, what is it that they're fighting for? Well, these are the things they say they're fighting for. Ready? Thriving working class communities are, we're going to be fighting for freedom to flourish. And they define that as expand public resources to support recreation, learning, and social spaces accessible to all. Establish paid family leave for all workers, a 32-hour work week with full pay and benefits, and a living minimum wage. Provide free quality public education from pre-K to college, and cancel all student debt. But wait a minute. There are some conflicts here. I thought that there would be no more bills and debt and health insurance and mortgages and retirement funds and food and education, energy, medicine and transportation, and these are all common goods and utilities, right? So what do we need a job for then? What, so we need a minimum wage. Why? Education is a free right? Well, under healthcare, it says healthcare for all, guarantee universal healthcare at no cost to individuals, including complete access to reproductive and gender affirming care, expand healthcare access and quality by investing in new public hospitals and clinics, make all medical education and training public and free. Wait. Why are we using the word investing here? Did you hear that? They used the word investing. I thought capitalism was bad. Man, I am sure glad we found that global capital stash to pay for all of this. Aren't you? And housing for all. Housing is a human right, they say. Build new, publicly owned social housing. Strictly regulate investment properties, establish universal rent control, and guarantee right to counsel for all tenants. There is that investment word again. I'm getting a little concerned that these people are really capitalists. I think they might be. Oh, and by the way, don't we have government-run housing right now? And how is that going for us? Well, under Finnish Reconstruction, it says, end the legacies of slavery and colonialism. Reinforce anti-discrimination laws, honor all treaties and tribal sovereignty, enact reparations, and massively invest in good jobs, quality housing, and infrastructure in neglected minority communities. So why do we keep using the word invest? By invest, do they really mean, to throw a lot of money at these things? And if so, what money are we talking about? Where is the government getting all this money from again? I mean, on this point alone, we are going to need a lot of capital to pay for the reparations and massive investments into good jobs and quality housing and infrastructure in Black communities alone. And I have another question on this point here. Where is slavery and colonialism still going on in this country today? And have we not ended slavery and colonialism in our country? I mean, what anti-discrimination laws are not being enforced currently? And that's right. You can still discriminate against white male straight Christians, right? Yes, maybe they will enforce anti-discrimination laws against them. Yeah, that's it. Next point: end massive incarceration and police immunity. Oh, this ought to be good. Um, dematerialize police departments, disempower police unions. That's interesting. We'll have to remember that one. And redirect funding to public services as steps toward fully abolishing the police and prison system, which protects the rich and jails the poor. Treat drug addicted people and mental illness as health issues, not crimes. End qualified immunity and empower civilian oversight bodies with real authority over the police. So, in other words, defund the police and decriminalize all drugs. Got it. But hasn't that failed everywhere that it has been tried? And don't massive amounts of people die when these things are enacted? I don't know. It's okay for people to die if it is for the common good, right? One other question here. Where are all the criminals going to go if there are no prison systems or police to protect us? And how are we supposed to reinforce anti-discrimination laws if there are no jails or police? We can't even fine anyone because everything is free and there is no need for money anymore. So what good is a fine? Well, they move on and they say feminism for all. Well, socialist feminism, they call it socialist feminism, fights for queer liberation and the freedoms of all working class women, stop gender violence, and end policies that oppress bodily autonomy and intimate life, including patriarchal restrictions on abortion, childbirth, and child raising, as well as gender expression and transition, marriage and divorce. Ban sex discrimination and ensure fair compensation and support for all forms of labor, including care work. My question here is, why is abortion, childbirth, and child raising, and even care work all under feminism? That seems a little sexist, don't you think? I've been told that biological women are not the only ones that can have babies. And they also throw in the Green New Deal, which is kind of weird, but workers must lead our democratic transition to a green future, pass a federal jobs guarantee, implement massive investments in sustainable, publicly owned energy and transit infrastructure, phase out the use of fossil fuels, reclaim and repair our Earth's resources for all. There it is again, that massive investment phrase. But who doesn't agree that if we need gold, silver, copper, coal, or any resource, we should just be able to go get it wherever it is, right? Well, not if we are using anything that takes gas, of course. So we can't do that. So just be sure to walk there with a hand shovel, and then you could just take whatever you want wherever it is. I also find it amusing that the drawing they have to illustrate this point, it is of a dam, hydroelectric dam. Essentially, since the greenies all want to take out our hydroelectric dams, and these guys don't. But anyway, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But move on. Working class foreign policy. Oh, this is good. End the U.S. war machine. Defund the Department of War, end all foreign wars, and close overseas military bases. Support and fully employ veterans, end immunity for U.S. war criminals, and support the International Criminal Court's mandate to prosecute war crimes. Yeah, in other words, we need to raise the white flag. We need to not only do nothing around the world that helps people, we also need to give up our own authority to the world courts. Yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, free Palestine. Here we go. Recognize the rights of the Palestinian people, including the right of return, the right to resist military occupation, and the right to self-determination in a free Palestine with Jerusalem as its capital. End all military and economic aid to Israel. Prosecute U.S. and Israeli leaders responsible for the genocide in Gaza. Okay, let's take this one at a time, can we? The right to return. Almost a quarter of all people that live in Israel are Palestinians. And reversely, how many Israelis live in Palestine? Yeah, that's what I thought. None. Here we go. Resist military occupation. Well, Israel did this in Gaza starting in 2005. That's exactly what they did. Just, of course, to have the Palestinians massacre 1,200 Israelis in 2023. And they say Jerusalem as its capital. Well, this is effectively saying the river to the sea type thing, right? It means to end Israel as a country, since Jerusalem is in the middle of this tiny country. And as far as procuring or prosecuting American and Israeli leaders for genocide in Gaza, what genocide are we talking about? Can anyone describe this genocide? Are they all talking about Israel defending themselves against the Palestinian terrorists that killed over 1,200 of them and kidnapped many more? Or are they talking about the hundreds of missiles that the Palestinians have launched at Israel just because they're Jewish? No, I don't know. And then they move on to end blockades, embargoes, and sanctions. It says people around the world deserve to live their lives without U.S. interference, and economic warfare against countries whose governments act independently of the United States, such as Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran. Yeah, this is kind of interesting here that the countries that they choose for examples are all either communists or terrorist theocracies. That should probably tell us something. Oh, they also, and this is a shocker, right? Abolish ICE, end ICE detention and deportations, and punish federal agents brutally. Whoa, not just punish them. We need to punish them brutally. Legalize migration, grant amnesty for all immigrants regardless of status, provide a path to citizenship for all permanent residents, and end visa caps and quotas. Yeah, so in effect, we just don't have a country or borders. I mean, you don't have a country if you don't have borders. So, let our land just be a free-for-all for the entire world. Why not, right? I mean, what would be the reason to have amnesty or citizenship if you have no borders, right? Just open the whole thing up. Working class democracy. Under that one, they have democracy for all. Extend full voting rights to all permanent U.S. residents and restore the right to vote for incarcerated people and people of criminal convictions. Establish statehood for Washington, D.C. and recognize the right to self-determination for all U.S. territories and colonies. Expand and protect voting rights and end voter suppression. Well, of course, everyone within the borders that we don't enforce, of course, should vote, right? Why would be keeping criminals from voting a thing, right? If there are not any police or prisons anymore, they should just vote. And in fact, why are we limiting our voting system to just people within our borders? I mean, why don't we just open it up to the world to vote in our elections? I mean, that's effectively what you're doing here. And they said they want a real democracy. It says, for the working class to govern, we need a new political system, end political corruption, and legalize bribery. Legalized bribery. Get rid of lobbyists, dark money, and Citizens United. Wow. And publicly finance all elections. Abolish the Electoral College. Replace the president and the Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by the subordinate to Congress. There is... This is where it gets really good, okay? They want to end political corruption and legalize bribery with publicly financed elections. This is because there is never corruption and bribery or dark money in government, right? and abolish the Electoral College. I love this one because we want our biggest cities to have a say in our elections, and only a say. Nobody else but our biggest cities. That sounds like a plan. And what is the difference between a president, by the way, which they want to get rid of, and an executive, which they want to replace our president? What's the difference? Oh, and by the way, don't our Supreme Court justices have to be confirmed by the Senate under our current system? I don't know. This seems weird to me. But anyway, a Democratic Congress. Replace the two-party system with a multi-party democracy. Expand the House of Representatives. Implement proportional representation and ranked choice voting in all elections. And abolish the Senate. Wait, abolish the Senate? But, and again, we have another winner here. They are proposing to have a system like many in Europe. A system where a minority rules because there are so many parties that no one has a majority. Oh, and again, having mob rule, since they will abolish the Senate. The Senate is there to give small states a voice. I mean, that's why it was set up by our founding fathers. But we can't have that in our new democracy, right? All right, economic democracy. Establish public ownership of the largest corporations and essential industries to ensure democratic control and accountability to the people. Enact aggressive wealth taxes on the richest individuals and corporations to spend on public goods and infrastructure. This is where they tell us that the government should just confiscate any private business that they want to. And here's where they give us a clue as to where they think this big pot of capital is hiding, by enacting aggressive wealth taxes on the rich. But if the government owns these corporations, where are the rich? Democracy at work, they say. Empower workers to come together and fight the boss. Protect, expand, and enforce the rights of all workers to form, join, and strike with their unions, unless it's a police union, of course, right? Regardless of industry, unless it's a police union. Support union members who organize, form caucuses, democratize their unions, and take political action. This last one confuses me a little. I thought that we were to fight the police union. And why do we need to form and support unions if all the industries are owned by the government? A government that is doing all these really good things for us, right? Like a minimum living wage and 32-hour work weeks and all this, but we're supposed to unionize? Yeah. So, like I say, as you can see, if you have ever read Karl Marx, this is just Marxism rehashed. We have seen this movie before, and it's called Communism. It has never worked in the history of the world, and everywhere it has been tried, it leads to the death of millions of people and no freedom or human rights. What I can say for the DSA is that they're not hiding the ball. They are saying what they believe and putting it out there for everyone to see. And so I commend them for that. But what they stand for and what they're fighting for, wow, just simply Marxism rehashed. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Of course, you can always contact us on our website, uncommonsensepodcast.com. You can go to our YouTube channel and like and share. That definitely helps us out. And thank you for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.